Hello, my name is Tobias Heiler and I'm one of the founders of BrainBoost. In this webinar, we show you how you can create your own protocols and use your own custom frequency bands. Let's say 7.5 to 9 Hertz or 12 to 17 Hertz, no problem. Also, we show you how you can create your own custom mappings. So tell the software what electrode is on what position. Also, we will show you how you can create protocols with a bipolar mapping. Have fun creating your own protocols.
Welcome to the webinar. I think I'm gonna jump right into sharing my screen. And as always, the webinar will be recorded and you should be able to see my screen. And let's get right to it. So, as always, we have a couple of different hardware manufacturers that connect to our software. So if you know a hardware manufacturer where you think this might be interesting to connect to, then of course give us the contact and we are happy to talk to people. Now, let's continue. Today, the topic is create your individual protocols part 2. So last time I already discussed or talked a little bit about how you can create your own protocol. One important takeaway was that you need to be up to date. So you need to have your own, have the latest version of the BrainAssistant. This way you can have your own training view, advanced training view, where you can see the raw EG and where you can also see some amplitudes. I'm not sure if you're using BioTrace, then it will not be possible. Hello, one more joined the webinar. So make sure your BrainAssistant is up to date so you can have that training view. And with the last webinar, you can create your own protocols, give them tags like concentration, calmness, focus. You can have 2 or more separate channels and you can have 2 or more mean values. What does that mean? Just to give you a little hint. So what I talked about last time was you can have, for example, created your own protocol where you have 2 bars. So one theta bar that is for C3, one, for example, that is for C4. So you will have 2 theta bars, or you can connect you can build a mean value of C3 and C4. So you have 1 theta bar that is a mean value. This is a huge takeaway. Some people asked me this the last webinar, wrote me a follow-up. So this should be clear because today we're gonna dive deeper into creating your own protocol. So let's go. Now, today it's gonna be mainly or a lot about custom frequency bands. It's gonna be depending on your hardware, also about custom mapping. I will explain what that means. And also a lot of people ask me about EMG, so biofeedback with measuring your muscle tension, and some hardware require an adapter. So I will address that in the webinar. Now, custom frequency bands. Why would you need custom frequency bands? So of course you have theta 4 to 8 Hertz, alpha 8 to 12 Hertz, and then you even have alpha 1 and alpha 2. But still, when you do analysis, doesn't need to be a full 19 or 24 channel QEG. It can also be a mini QEG. You might see, okay, this person here, brings me to the next example, has an alpha peak of, for example, with eyes open, 8.5. Now, if you don't know alpha peak, it's not too important. My point is, you now want to say, okay, I want to lower, so inhibit the alpha peak of 8.5, and theta would be 4 to 8 Hertz, alpha 1 would be 8 to 10 Hertz. Maybe I build a custom frequency band around that. So to be more direct on something, maybe you're inspired by a study and they said, hey, build this custom frequency band. This is going to be awesome. So then you might want to copy or be inspired by that study and rebuild it. This is why you need custom frequency bands. And if you supervise or you monitor a session, you might want to say, I want to train ZZ SMR training, but I want to see a certain custom frequency band and just monitor that. Not necessarily train it, but have a look at it. So let's get practical. How do you do that with the BrainAssistant? You start a BrainAssistant and you can choose any user. I have my demo client. It doesn't matter. All training protocols will be saved and available for all different clients. So you can create it with any client. You go on training session and then you go on select protocol. Now this looks different depending on what hardware you use. I'm using an EEG that is running in the background, so this looks different depending on each hardware. So I'm going to choose the one that's right for me. And now these are pre-built protocols, and here on Create Protocol, I can click Create Protocol, and this is a screen you should be familiar with. You can watch the last webinar, or here, quite straightforward, you can just say, give it a name. So this would be Webinar April. Obviously, give it a creative name. You can give tags, control, flow, whatever you like. I'm doing random stuff now. I will come to the part bipolar channel. Now let's talk about custom frequency bands. So you want to add a custom frequency. Now here you have the standard ones like theta or whatever. And when you scroll down, you will have custom. And the option of custom is here, it says alpha, but this is just a working title. So this can be anything, okay? So test. You need to give it, here it's gray, you need to give it a certain position you want to train on. So for example, C3. Again, I'm doing just random positions, doesn't need to be make sense. And now I can say, remember, the alpha peak I want to inhibit was 8.5. So let's say, okay, I go 7.5 to, let's say, 9. So this would be a custom frequency band now from 7.5 Hertz to 9. I can give it a color, it can be any color. Of course, if you then, for example, give it blue and you say, same time I want to train theta on the same position, then you see both is blue, a very similar blue, but still maybe you want to pick a color that is not completely or very similar to a color that you will also include in the training protocol. So choose a color, I don't know, I'm going for purple or something here that sticks out a little bit. Of course, you can use the custom frequency band as a mean value on several positions. Now, very important, here, this title says test. So it does not show at this point what frequency band is behind this. So maybe you want to write 7.5 to 9. And now you see, now I know it looks maybe a little cryptic. So you can work a little bit with blank space and then you have it here. So be creative, don't be over creative. Give it a title where you can recall what is it. Also very important. Now, if you are from the US, in the US, you write 7.5. In Germany or other countries in Europe, you write a comma. So you need to use the one that is common. You need to use the writing style that is common in your country. So when you select the language English, this will be 7.5. If you use, for example, German or Spanish, it will be comma. So English is 7.5. In German, it would be 7.5. I know it's a little confusing. It's turned around. We think about implementing a warning signal when it, if I would write 7.5, then it would be actually 75, which doesn't make sense. So English is 7.5. This is a custom frequency band. This is a common one, so you can mix that. Of course, you can add multiple things. Press save. And now if I scroll down, I can click on that and select protocol. And you know the drill. From here on, you go start, and then you have your EEG. And let's make a split view here. And you can check out your amplitudes. You see same principle as you used to from the common frequency bands, except here you have the color you chose. When a color is too similar, so you forgot about it, you put the color blue on the frequency band, the custom one. You can always click on the left side on one, and then it will recolor it in red. So if some frequency bands are too similar, you can color it while working with it. So much about the custom frequency bands. Should be straightforward, and give it a try. Now, next step, custom mapping. I briefly explained that in the last webinar, but still I got a lot of emails and questions about it, especially after uploading it on YouTube and then people watched it. Why would you use a custom mapping? First of all, mapping means on what positions do you put electrodes. So when you use a pre-built cap, then you have fixed position. So a cap, for example, 19 channel cap for a QEEG, it's completely clear to your amplifier where what position is. But if you have 3 electrodes, you don't think in positions first, you think in channels, channel 1, 2, 3, 4. And now you need to tell our software, hey, by the way, I put channel 2 on position FZ, I put position channel 3 on position PZ. So this is why we need custom mappings. I will explain. Why would you need a custom mapping? You might want to do a mini QEEG. So this can be, even if you have a 24 channel device, you might want to just do 4 channels in a Y shape. You might want to do 8 channels or something in between every 3 or 5 sessions. So you have less work, but you still get a bigger picture. It might be inspired by a study. So it might be you have a pre-built cap with 8 channels, but there are not all positions you want to use in a certain study. And maybe you want to train, for example, on 1 channel, but you want to record 4 at the same time. So let's say ZZ SMR training, you train on 1 channel, but still you want to record 4 channels, and then later on maybe check out frontal part, parietal part while you train on a central part. This is where we create a mapping. So let's go on training session. We select protocol. Again, this looks different depending on what device you use. And now you can press here, add new or create, same button. And here we can give it a title, and the titles should be descriptive. What is the order of the positions? So let's say we go C3, ZZ, C4. Last time I used Y shape, the Y shape F3, F4, ZZ, PZ, which is pretty nice. Today, different example. We will come to bipolar, don't worry. And then we say, hey, channel 1, by the way, is position C3. Now, channel 2, I will put on ZZ. And now channel 3, I will put on C4. This is now the information I give my, our software. And obviously you need to be strict, and then in your device, depending on what you use, if you use, I don't know, Neurobit Optima or something, or ANT Neuro with adapter that thinks in channels, now we tell, hey, this will be on C3 channel 1. Save. And now if we use this mapping, this is why I say the name should be clear. Otherwise you would have to click on edit and check out. So I would give the correct order and say select. Here, for example, it says, hey, I cannot train. At least 1 position is not available with the current setup. This isn't a way if you use dynamic mapping or standard mapping, because then it will just tell you, hey, please put channel 1 on F3. But now we said, we kind of promised to our software, hey, I will put channel 1 on C3, channel 2 on CZ, and channel 3 on Z4. So this is why C3, C4 works. C3 works, CZ works, and the rest doesn't work. Now, let's say I want to do a ZZ SMR training, select protocol. You see here, now it says, hey, channel 2, remember we had C3, ZZ, C4, channel 2 is CZ. You can place the other ones on the correct parts, but this is just a training protocol. So it will just show you, the training, the signal of the trained position. Start. And now this is something some people ask me, what is the difference between EG training channels and then here EG all channels? And this is the difference. This is now where theta, alpha, and we see here the ZZ, where we just train, where we get the signal from, and where we just give the feedback. And this is what we record at the same time. So later we can then build mini QEEGs, brain maps, some nice trend reports, whatever we like. Take a look at the amplitudes of all measured positions, but this is just where we train on. And this is obviously where you need a custom mapping for if you want to do this. And we do this every 3 or 5 sessions, depending on how many channels we want to apply on somebody's head. So this is a pretty cool feature, and it will remember the setting even if you do just a recording. So without training something here, it will save this mapping as well. So this is another feature that you might want to combine. By the way, one more thing. Let's say I use this one, C3, ZZ, C4, and I create my own protocol. And I say add, here we had C4. This is fine. But if I then press add on T3, it will also show you, hey, one position in this mapping is missing. As I said, you kind of promised I will put the electrodes on these positions. So much about custom mapping. And you might want to use this even with a 4-channel or 2-channel amplifier. This is pretty interesting if you want to cover frontal, central, and parietal part, for example. Last but not least, bipolar mapping. Here it gets a little confusing, or at first, some people might think this a little through, but it makes a lot of sense if, for example, you want to do an EMG, so measure muscle tension. Here, for example, with an ANT neuro device, there's different devices as well. Once you get what the bipolar channels are about, then it makes a lot of sense. Sorry, here's a writing typo. With a bipolar training or recording, it might make sense. What does or you want separate references. So what does bipolar mean? Bipolar means, and for that, I will skip a little forward. Yeah, you see, I'm going to explain a lot. This is an example of an ANT neuro device that has an adapter. And this adapter says, I need 1 ground. And then I have channel 1 to 8. And all these channels need 1 reference, right? Mastoid, behind the ear. That's it, I'm fine with it. So channel 1 refers to that 1 reference. Channel 2 refers to that 1 reference, and so on. Now, if I want to do a bipolar training, or I need several references, then I need to create that. What does that mean? Maybe you want to put 1 electrode right frontal part, and then it should be in reference to parietal right side. And then the same for the left side. So you need more than 1 reference. So you need to tell the software, hey, channel 1 refers to a certain reference, but channel 2 or 3 or 4 refers to a different reference. So we kind of need to trick that one now. EMG will also play a big part in that role. So how is that done? And I have some graphics to show this and make it clear, even clearer. We go on training session, select protocol, and we now create our own mapping. Add new or create. We give this a title, bipolar. This makes sense in a second. And I click on bipolar. Now here this says, hello, channel 1, active channel 1 refers to, and not the reference on, for example, that adapter that I just showed you, but it refers to channel 2. How should I name it? So in the beginning, you need to write that down. At some point you remember. So I will call it bipolar, B for bipolar, 1, 2. So channel 1 is the active and channel 2 is the reference. Add. Now I want a next pair. So what is the next one in line? Active channel 3. And what should be the reference? Well, 4. I have a graphic that will show you that, but hopefully you can follow. So active channel 1 takes 2 as a reference. Active channel 3 takes 4 as a reference. Of course, you can say, wait a second, channel 5 is my active, but it also takes channel 2 as a reference. I would name it now 5.2. So what would that mean? You could, for example, do a C3, C4 with just 1 reference. So you would need to go to your adapter and use this one on C3. And here we had 5 on channel C4. And this will be your reference. Sounds super cryptic, but it makes sense in a second. So we can now create different pairs of active and reference pairs, and even, of course, use the same reference. Why would we want to do that? I will come to that. Save. Select. Now, obviously, our pre-built protocols, they don't like that stuff. They want to use the reference that your device has. And so they are kind of confused now. But we can create a protocol, bipolar EMG. So you see, maybe for biofeedback, this makes a lot of sense. And you see here, add bipolar channel. And now I'm saying, hey, I want to do EMG. So I want to measure muscle tension. And now here it says, what channels do you want to use? Because now it gets tricky. To measure an EMG, you need 2, 1 active and 1 reference to that active one. And you place, let's say, the right biceps. You place on one end, the active one, on the other end of the same biceps, the reference. So I would say, okay, this is my pair, active 1 and active 2. They belong together now. 1 is the active and 1 is the reference. Now the left biceps if I only have, and remember, if I only have one reference, I would be screwed now, because if I would not do the bipolar setting, I only have one reference. So this goes on the right biceps, but this wouldn't work, right? Because the reference already on my right biceps. So now what I can do is, I can now say, you know what? Now I will place channel 3 and 4. The naming needs to be correct though. I will use this one on my left side, on my left biceps. And this is now how we can build bipolar parts, use the bipolar mapping. And now we have that bipolar EMG. So we can now use even a hardware that is meant to just have one reference for all channels. I can now use and trick a little bit to do EMG. And how that looks like is this. I now read it. This is, for example, with the Ego 8 or Ego 24. Bipolar mapping now says basically this: you are a pair, you are a pair, you are a pair. And I mean, I can freely design that. Before that, I also said that active channel 5 should refer to channel 2. So I can build pairs as much as I want. I know it sounds maybe confusing at first. Maybe you don't have a use case for that, but a lot of people said, I want to implement an EMG or multiple EMGs in my training. So this is why we implemented that. And I will come to that part. So this is why you can do bipolar mappings. Now, depending on your hardware, I address that. If you have a Nexus device, you will need BioTrace. Sorry, but you know this by now once you followed our webinars. So you need BioTrace to build all that stuff. So you cannot build protocols in our software. Now here it says, if you have, for example, Neurobit Optima, it says hardware and software. What is that? And if you have an ANT Neuro, for example, of course we support many different hardware, so you can email us as well. Here, as I just showed you, you just do the software trick when you have an adapter. For example, with the Neurobit Optima. Now, this one, once you go in our BrainAssistant, the top right, this is now EDF reader, but in your case, when you click on that connection symbol, you can see this one. And here it says use internally linked reference. Usually the default is yes, check. So for an EEG, you want to use this. For an EMG, you don't want to use this. Why? When it is linked, it says, hey, channel 1 uses this reference. And they're all linked together. So channel 2 will use the very same reference. Channel 3 and 4 also. So this way is kind of similar to the ANT Neuro I showed you. So with this setup, it's beautiful to do an EEG. You only need one reference behind an ear, but you cannot do an EMG because, well, only for one pair, right? For EMG, what you do is you uncheck this box. And now this one, this active channel refers to this reference. This active channel refers to this reference, and so on. This is what you want to do when you, for example, want to do an EMG or, of course, a bipolar signal or a bipolar training or measurement. This is what I just showed you. So here we do the bipolar setup, and this leads to this one. And for biofeedback with the HRV, of course, you don't need to create an bipolar setup because you have channel 1 on one side, you put the ground wherever you want, left or right hand, and then you place the reference on the other hand. So here you don't need to get super creative, but with multiple EMG channels, this is the way to go when you have, for example, an ANT Neuro device. Now, I know today was a little bit of a deep dive, but I think the custom frequency bands will be pretty interesting for a lot of people. Now, there's one thing. The update with the custom protocols, with the custom frequency bands is coming soon. I know it's not up there yet, so keep an eye open the next weeks. If there's update available in top right, BrainAssistant, then please do the update. Then you will be able to do the custom frequency bands. We are always checking, we're always working on a thing, for example, like the 7.5 or 7,5 are things when we test that come in our eyes and pop in our eyes, and then we say, okay, we cannot release this yet. It needs to be picture perfect. So I know you guys are expecting this, but please be a little patient. And if you watch the recorded webinar, maybe it's already out there and you can use the feature. Now, next webinar, So save the date, 6th of June. It will be very interesting. It will be a different topic than doing custom frequencies and protocols. It will be about your first, or generally an assessment you want to do. So maybe all 3 or after 4 or 7 sessions, whenever, and how to do an auto report, create an auto report. For that, also very important, you don't need a 24 or 19 channel cap or device. It can be a 2-channel device. It can be a 4-channel device, because of course it looks more fancy when you create a brain map with 19 channels plus, but it can also be 4 channels or 8 channels or whatever you like. And also we have worked very hard on an auto report feature in our software that will pop out a lot of nice things automatically for you. So you only need to do a good recording, create maybe your custom mapping, right? This is why I showed you this today. So decide, where do I want to measure, and create some nice data. And this is going to be very interesting for you. We use this a lot in our practice, and this is what I'm going to show you in June, how you can do that. And also maybe if you train at home for yourself, then you can do a little self-assessment and self-exploring as well. So save the date, and now that's it from my side for today. Thank you, and wherever you are around the world, here at 6 p.m. So I'm going home and have some nice dinner, and you guys have a work day ahead of you. So go work hard, and yeah, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.